The D-backs are going to the World Series. I know that's on the minds of everybody who's watching the show because we're Everything Phoenix. And Everything Phoenix is more than just real estate. Everything Phoenix is just that. We're talking sports business. We're talking development. We're talking commercial real estate, residential real estate, relocation, population influx, outflux, jobs, the economy, the local economy, and sometimes the macro. And all for your information, this is the channel you want to be on, and we're getting started right now. Hey, everybody, my name is Kelly Cook. I'm at YouTube Live here, Everything Phoenix channel. Thank you for joining us. Please go ahead and subscribe. And if you could comment, let us know where you're watching from. If you have any questions, don't be shy. I'd be happy to answer them for you. If you're thinking it, chances are someone else is too. So don't be shy, hop in. We're going to discuss the housing market as well, of course, because that is extremely important. Do we go from here? And what in the world is going on with interest rates? And how is that affecting the bottom line of supply and demand? We're going to cover that right now and jump right in. But the D-backs, they're going to the World Series. We're going to cover that and the economic impact that that has on the local economy. And guys, it's probably more than you think. So let's jump in right now. We're going to go right to it and talk about this from the Business Journal right here, okay? The Diamondbacks are going to the World Series. Here's what that could mean for Phoenix's economy. Now, as a local Phoenician, I care about this, and everyone else who lives here should, because it matters. It matters because the amount of money that circulates into an economy helps everything else. If that local business receives an influx of money due to all this tourism, et cetera, and people coming in to watch the D-backs game, then they had now more money in their pocket to then potentially spend at another local store, or maybe on a new house, or maybe on an upgraded rental house, whatever it may be. So the influx and circulation of money is huge. And this right here is awesome for Phoenix and our local economy. In 2022 World Series, Houston, which played and won it, tourism officials saw an economic impact of $12 to $14 million per game. That's right, per game. And it's a series, best of seven. So, some of you conspiracy theorists out there who think, well, all these are going to go 7 games because it benefits from a money standpoint. You're right. It does. That doesn't mean they can fix the game. They hope they're not fixing the game because there's a lot more money being traded on the, sports gambling and all that stuff too. But that all being said, it does benefit the more the games that are being played, right? So best of 7 series, they are playing the Texas Rangers out of Dallas or Arlington. And this is awesome. Last time the D-backs were in the World Series was, I think, 2001, right? When we won it versus the New York Yankees. In fact, this article talks about that for a second. So this is huge. This makes the World Series substantial revenue increases now and in the future for D-backs as they get to add at least 2 and possibly 3 more home games with significantly higher ticket prices. The team will also like to see revenue increases in merchandise and concessions to the previous playoff rounds, starting right after the final pitch on October 24th, when D-backs National League champions shirts and caps went on sale at the MLBshop.com. This is huge, guys. Economic impact here. Let's get to it really fast here. In Philadelphia last year, the city saw a combined impact of $78 million with a $49 million direct impact spending during the World Series. That is $12 to $14 million per game in Houston last year. That is huge, guys. Okay. That is awesome. Now, they're saying hosting major sporting championships in Phoenix is becoming a regular occurrence. That's right. It is. Just one more reason you want to be here. You want to move to Phoenix or one of the suburbs. Okay. And we would love to chat with you about that. If you have any questions regarding that, let us know. Reach out. That's what we do. We'd be happy to help you guys out. This is awesome. So, little series history here. The D-backs won the World Series 22 years ago in 01. There you go. When they beat the New York Yankees in the best of 7 in a 4-3 series win. World Series will start in Arlington, Texas for Game 1, which is part of the Dallas-Fort Worth area, on October 27th, which is tomorrow, with Game 2 on the 28th. And D-backs' first home game will be on October 30th and 31st for Game 3 and 4. If you want tickets, jump in, check it out. They're probably going to go quick. All right, now we're going to pivot over to the housing market because there's just no easy transition from World Series baseball into the local housing market. But here we go. All right. This is interesting, guys. Look at this. Pay attention. Okay. Straight from the Crawford report, the horse's mouth, the most accurate housing economist in the Phoenix area by far. Although most measurements of the housing market in Greater Phoenix have shown significant deterioration over the past month, this does not extend to prices. What? That's right. Look at the average list price per square foot graph right here. This is pretty crazy. Which way? Again, I don't think I missed this day in math, or maybe even simple math, algebra, or any type of geometry class with a graph. But holy cow, I can tell what's going on here. Which way are all three of these metrics going at this current time? This is October 23. They're all going up. This is the closed list price per square foot, the actual sell price per square foot, and then of course the under contract list price square foot. Okay, they're all going in the positive direction. Now this is good, even though demand and supply are deteriorating. Prices are still holding firm, if not actually going up by just a little bit, guys. And this data is just as recent as 2 days ago, 3 days ago, excuse me, 3 days ago, because this is tracked on a daily basis before the Crawford report post one of these graphs. Pretty crazy, right? Now, what's it say about that? The monthly average sales price per square foot has just breached 290 to the upside, while the average price per square foot for listings under contract remains comfortably above $320 a square foot. As we see inventory rise, we will see more sellers cutting their asking price, which hasn't happened yet, but it's going to happen. But this has not filtered through to the chart above yet. Now, October 21st, this was 5 days ago. The chart below shows us quite how emphatically the housing market hates interest rates above or at 8%. Look at that. No bueno, right? This is interesting. Look at the purple line here. This is 2023. What is that doing? Well, that's going up. But on this graph, you don't necessarily want to be going up at that kind of a clip. This is supply. Now, we need more supply. No doubt about that. We need more supply, but we need supply to be kind of in lockstep with demand. Okay. When they're all out of whack and far apart from each other, sometimes bad things happen, right? So we want demand to increase at the same tick as this supply, and it's not even close. Demand is flat on its best day right now. But what will happen, guys? Let's just think about this for a second. Again, I had this conversation with someone else this morning, but what will happen if supply actually stays, the levels off here and stays here? Demand is not so good, but eventually, if supply doesn't keep going at that pace, which it shouldn't, okay, what will happen when at some point in a year, maybe 18 months, rates come back down? That's going to spur what? Demand. And if supply is kind of inch along here, flat, and demand is here, then all of a sudden rates go down, demand's going to go, and supply will not increase at the same tick, not even close, and it will probably actually decrease because demand will start eating up that supply pretty quick, because there is a lot of pent-up demand on the sidelines. We know that. So that will be interesting to see then what that does to property values if and when, or I should say not if, but when rates do start to come back down. It's cyclical. It's going to happen. Okay, interesting, right? I found that kind of interesting. So prices will probably increase, right? That's simple economics. Now, they go on to say, as recently as 3 weeks ago, we had just over 2 months supply. Now we're headed over 3 months, and should all know in 3.5 to 4.5 months represents a balanced market. That's what it does. At the current rate of change, we're only 2 weeks away from that balanced market. Calculating months of supply involves two numbers: the number of active listings and the monthly sales rate. Item number one is growing quickly after a long period of weakness. Item number two is in a long-term downtrend as demand continues to do what? Drop. Okay. We need demand to increase a little bit here, but it's not, and supply is starting to run away from it. Both numbers are working together to push months of supply sharper and higher. Okay. Now, here's the graph of the 17 major metropolitan areas around and in the Phoenix area, and you have them all in the red. They are all decreasing, and as they just said, the overall Crawford report is looking like it's going to be in a balanced market per the data in about 2 weeks, 2 weeks away. Okay, so if it continues to go that route, who has more leverage? Buyers do. So you might want to think about jumping in if you can afford the monthly payment per your interest rate and or a rate buy down that we can negotiate for you and have a seller pay for. That's huge. Okay. So you can see the different rates here, different cities, around the Phoenix area. You now have Buckeye and Goodyear and Queen Creek and Maricopa all in a buyer's market per the data, buyer's market. You have Surprise in a balanced market. Peoria and everything above so far is still technically in a seller's market, although they are declining at a decent pace. You can see the change right here. minus 21%, minus 13, minus 13, minus 27 in Cave Creek, minus 8 in Tempe, etc. Okay, interesting. So there you have your local economic housing update. So do that with it what you may, but give us a call. We'd love to interpret this for you if you have any questions. Now let's pivot back to development. And we talk a lot about the water issues. And if you're going to invest in real estate in Phoenix, if you're going to live down here, you may want to know about this. Now, again, there is no disaster, there's no panic, there's none of that, because all but 2 suburbs in the Phoenix area, and there are more than 17, have a 100-year supply water certificate guaranteeing for the next 100 years there will be plenty of water, and that's just in the ground. That does not even take into consideration currently surface water like rivers and lakes. So there's a lot of water, guys, still to be had. There's no doubt about that. Nonetheless, we still need to be protective of how we move forward in the future to make sure we have ample supply of water for 500 years from now. All of our great grandkids, right? Have that water. They definitely need that. Okay, so we need to be stewards of that, right? So scoping results show new Colorado River rules will face a range of demands. This is the interesting part. Now we know, okay, that when it comes to Colorado River, there is the upper basin and the lower basin states. Okay, the document that governs the use and rights of water coming up the Colorado River is about 100 years old. That's right, 100 years old. It needs to be rewritten, especially with the major population growth that we've had over the last century, right? That being said, there's the upper basin wants to make the lower basin change their rules first, and then they'll get to their rules. Lower basin states consist of Arizona, Nevada, and California. The other upper basin states, as you can see in this article right here, are states like Colorado, Utah, New Mexico, Wyoming. But they're not really willing to play ball until the lower basin gets their house in order, they say. Now, and of course, the lower basin states feel the same about the upper basin states. They need to get their house in order before they do something, because they have the downflow of the water from the river. That all said, we all know, because you watch this show, right, that the lower basin states have already mutually agreed on their own accord, without federal intervention, that they are going to stop, or I should say, reduce the amount of water they're going to use over the next 3 years through 2026. But the upper basin states have yet to commit to anything, unlike the lower basin states. So now you have this big fight going on of who's going to cut what and what those cuts going to be. So the challenges ahead right here, as this article explained, is that it's creating a plan, not just for water users who turn on their taps, but also for others who use the river, human or otherwise. You have obviously animals, farming, etc. Right? That all depend on that water just as much as humans do. Okay. So ultimately, what's going to happen here? What's going to happen? You have negotiations right here. You need to be able to plan for a future that anticipates the hydraulic shifts and challenges. We need to be able to adapt quickly as conditions change, but we're building that in from the start. Okay. Negotiations are playing out between these lower and upper basin states against the backdrop of the Colorado River Compact, a century-old document that imposes somewhat inflexible legal boundaries on current talks. So there you have it. Politics and contracts, right, are in the way of maybe some common sense. Go figure. But we'll keep an eye on the water issue for you. So if you need any of that news, you just stick right here. We'll present the facts to you, whether they're positive or negative, good or bad. Okay. Next thing. We talked about D-backs, which I love. Okay. Love this. Legacy Sports Complex. Now, this is one of the largest sports complex in the entire country, not just state of Arizona. And it went into bankruptcy, and they finally have a deal pending bankruptcy court approval. Okay. The deal will be worth $25.5 million, and there's a majority owner who's going to buy it. They're a private equity firm. Go figure that one too. Burke Operating Partners out of the Bay Area in San Francisco is the buyer currently, and they are looking to take it over and, of course, keep it rocking and rolling, because everybody was scared what's going to happen because there's so many soccer tournaments, pickleball tournaments, football, flag football, baseball, basketball, indoor basketball, volleyball, you name it. They're out there. It's a huge complex, and the fact that someone's going to take it over and continue to operate it is a great thing for especially youth sports, but even adult intramural sports in the state of Arizona, or I should say the Phoenix area primarily. So that is all good stuff, assuming it all goes through bankruptcy court. Okay, so I want to keep you guys updated on that. There's their championship pickleball court where they have stands, it's shaded, the whole 9 yards. Awesome, awesome sport, right? Okay, so let's keep it moving. Now back to the housing market. These articles aren't necessarily rocket science, but it's interesting to keep tabs on them. But first-time home buyers, beware how high home prices, interest rates combine to stymie purchases. Now, if you look at rates, where do they stand? Mortgage News Daily says right now the 30-year fixed stands at 7.9%, and it's down a whopping eighth of a hundredth of a percentage point. If I said that right, less than 1/10. Put it that way. Okay, today, but it's going in the right direction. It's green. It's going down 7.9%. So again, this is your par premier rate, about the best you're going to find out there, no matter who you are. They only kind of go up from there based upon your FICO, debt to income ratio, and if it's investment property, if it's an owner occupied property, whatever it is you are looking to do when getting a loan. But 7.9% is not cheap. It is high. Look at that. Let me look at this, guys. Look at this graph right here. In 2000, just as recent as Monday, August 30th of 21, rates were at 2.92% on a 30-year fixed. And we go into 2022, even February 21st of 22, 4.17. Sign me up for that deal, right? I'll take it. But those are long gone, guys, for a long time, I think. Now, I think when rates come down, when I talk about that, I'm not talking about rates going to 4.17 again. If that happens, I guess that's great, right? I don't know. Everyone has their opinion on that's good for the long-term outlook of the housing market. But if they just went to 5.5, that'd be phenomenal. So we're looking at ideally hoping to get back to 5.5 to 6. That would be great, and that would spur a lot of economic housing activity if and when it gets down to that number, which I do believe is going to be within the next 2 years, for sure, within the next 2 years. But we'll see what happens, right? No one knows for sure. Speaking of which, inflation. CBS has this video, which is pretty good. I'm not going to play it for you guys because it just takes up time and bandwidth, but you get to just by the title of the article. Mortgage rates continue to go up as home prices remain low. I mean, just make sure you guys are awake. High. Prices are high, guys. Affordability is an issue. And then you have that combined with high interest rates, and it's not a good combination. The climate interest rates may be keeping prospective home buyers from moving from places. Oh, let me share my screen, guys. I realize I'm not doing that. Sorry. Okay. There's the CBS News article. The climbing rates may be keeping prospective home buyers from moving from places they may not necessarily want to live in. And they talk about that. Guys, did you know that a survey was done by, I believe, the NAR or maybe Zillow, and they surveyed everyone who bought a house in their sample size, right? Bought a house between 2021 and 2022 of, I think it was July or June. And what they found is that over 80% of the people that bought a house in that 18 to 24 month time period were not thrilled or just completely satisfied with their home purchase. That's right. They're not. Yet they're not going to move because they have a 3% mortgage rate or 4% or below mortgage rate, right? So they're going to stick it out because compared to where they're at now, they're just not going to take that risk on. But if they're unhappy, think about that. They're unhappy where they're at, and they would like a different type of house because they had to just jump in and get something, right? Because the market was on fire back then. When they go down to 6, is 6 the magic number? We don't know, right? 6.25? Is it 5.75? When they get in that area, holy cow, guys, there's some pent-up demand, and you're going to start seeing things start rock and rolling, I think. So if the Fed is smart, when the economy continues to stall out and it gets bad enough, they start to lower rates, they'll do it at a very slow, methodical pace. So they don't just, have a flood of things happening where now, supply and demand gets completely out of whack and then, prices shoot up again. That's what we don't want, right? So, Lori, what's going on? Sold at 5%. I would love to see that rate. Yes, I would too. In fact, what we know is that, what we do know, sidebar here, guys, is that the Cromford report will show us in a graph that we go back historical. We can see this graph, but what we know, as rates were increasing in 2022, they were going up, right? Like at a 45-degree angle, let's call it. Well, for Phoenix, I can't speak for the rest of the nation, but for Phoenix, what we know is that at 5.5%, we were good. Why? Because rates on a climb up that went pretty quick, they stalled out at 5.5% for about a month. And during that month, in a not a very good month, that's seasonally a good month, meaning July and August timeframe, a record amount of transactions occurred for that time period, right? So we know that at that time period, that people will transact. 5.5. We know that's good for Phoenix. Now, I would submit to you that that's changed because somebody moved the cheese, somebody moved the goalpost here because the consumer is now more used to 8%, 7.5%. So if we could probably get to 6, I mean, maybe 6.5, probably not, but 6 to 5.5. Oh my goodness. I think the floodgates will open for Phoenix. Now, the rest of the country, maybe not as much. They might have to go lower than us for that to happen. But I think at 6, we're going to be good. And especially, we know the data says at 5.5 in 2022, we're going to be really good, right? In terms of demand, people willing to transact a house, buy or sell. So there you go. That's the target. And I think 6 is more like it now based upon the time we spent now the last 18 months or so almost at rates that have been, 7 or higher. So not quite 18 months, but a decent amount of time. Okay. So sharing my screen here and going back to this article, you can see it's not rocket science, but we know rates are up in that 8% area. And then first-time home buyers, beware. High home prices, interest rates combine to stymie purchases. So now who's being hurt the most here, guys, by this? It's the first-time home buyer. It is, right? Because, they don't have equity to sell. Guys, if you have, maybe if you're not a first-time home buyer, but you never sold a house in a good market, therefore didn't get a chunk of equity, or maybe you did, but you blew it. So don't do that. Don't go out and buy a bunch of boats and crazy stuff and blow all your money, your equity when you cash out. If you decide to do that at some point, reinvest it, save it, have a purpose for it, tell the money where to go. I teach a personal finance class. I love that aspect of the flow of money. But the point I want to make is that if you don't have a house to sell because you're a first-time home buyer, because maybe you just came out of college, maybe you living with mom and dad, maybe you've been renting, and you now are trying to jump in, it's tough because you better have some decent money saved up for a down payment. And are there DPA programs, down payment assistant programs, where you can get in with potentially zero money down? Yeah, there are. Give us a call. We know several of them actually that you can do that, and literally zero money out of pocket, literally. But you have to have certain things you have to qualify for. But if you don't have a bunch of equity to put down from a previous house that you just sold, then it's a lot harder. So, that being said, these first-time home buyers are getting crushed pretty good. So I go over here to this article and we talk about this here. First-time home buyers, they are saying all the pretty much the obvious, right? That the pandemic obviously made prices go up, and that inventory is low, and that if you don't currently have a house to sell where you can cash out and get a bunch of money, you're going to be behind the 8 ball a little bit because prices are higher, right? The current average for a conventional 30-year fixed mortgage is at or below 8.06% for a $430,000 home in Arizona for a buyer with a credit score of 700 to 719. Okay, 700 to 719. Who puts 10% down? It's still 8.06. And this article was written just a couple days ago, right? On the 23rd, 3 days ago. So we know what we're up against, right? First-time home buyers are up against this kind of thing. Okay. And then they go on to talk about, obviously what's going on here, but we're not going to see a big spike in inventory. That's kind of obvious. I've been saying that forever. It's not coming. It's not coming, guys. Did you know that household formation right now, which are primarily millennials getting together, right? Or maybe it's a single person who left mom's house and went to, buy a house by themselves or whatever. But household formation is outpacing new home construction at a pace of 3 to 1. Let me say it again. New household formation is outpacing new home construction, like new home deliveries, right? Brand new homes coming to market that are being built and can be sold now. 3 to 1. Okay. So that's keeping supply lower. They can't build houses fast enough at this point. And then you have, obviously, on top of that, in some places, decent demand. In other places, not so good demand. Like right now, we don't have great demand, but it fluctuates. We had okay demand just a few months ago. Demand's gone down a little more. But it's still, these are people that are forming households. Not every single one is buying a house, yet they have to live somewhere because they're forming a household. And so if they can buy a house, they are going to now, because they have to live somewhere. Even if they rent a house, somebody has to buy a house for them to rent it out to those people who just formed that household. So either way, we see a little issue in supply, and it's not going to be solved very soon. So keep that in mind, because simple economics, Econ 101 will tell you that if that's the case, looking over the next 6 to 18 months on the horizon, prices are probably going to stay they're going to hold. Prices will probably hold fairly well. And then when the Fed drops the rates a little bit because the economy starts to stall out, what happens? Prices would go up if those data points hold true, which is just not. It's my opinion based upon deductive reasoning of data, not my feelings, not my emotions, right? Data over drama, baby. Okay, so That's the article here. Abby's piping in here. What's up, Abby? Wow, good credit score and still 8%. I know. It's tough out there. It's tough out there. But remember, rate buy downs. You could have a 6 or even a 5% interest rate in your first year if you get the right type of rate buy down. Okay, that we can help you with. All right, here we go. Now moving over to the commercial side. $270 billion in commercial real estate capital is on the sidelines. How much of that sum could go into distressed real estate? Okay, this is somewhat interesting. It's still mostly a waiting game for commercial loans and properties showing signs of distress. So what will it take for more of these deals to trade? At the end of the third quarter, an estimated $270 billion targeting North American real estate was sitting on the sidelines. That's a lot of cash. According to Preqin Limited, of that, more than $100 billion was opportunistic capital, which typically targets properties requiring an aggressive repositioning and lease up strategy, and also includes new development. Okay, this is interesting. What will it take for distressed properties to trade? While more distressed property is expected, it hasn't fully emerged yet as lenders work with borrowers on short-term extensions and modify and restructure loans when possible. Guys, that's going to happen, right? If you're a bank, that's just smart. If you're a lender, that's just smart. You don't want to foreclose if you don't have to and take on the holding of that property and then trying to get it resold for a discount. Ideally, you don't want to do that. Ideally, you want to keep getting your return on investment for the money you've lent out. So you're going to work with the borrower if they need to restructure a lease or restructure the loan deal, whatever it means, whatever it takes. So this is why you don't see this flood of commercial assets coming to the market, because remember, the naysayers are always talking about, oh, look out for the doom and gloom. Here are all these properties going to be foreclosed on, whether it's commercial or residential. And guys, it just doesn't happen at the same clip they always say the vast majority of the time. Okay. So, but he added, a lot of buyers don't feel prices have bottomed out. There are a lot of commercial real estate loans out there. And by today's standards, they have low interest rates, meaning more buyers are interested in assuming existing debt. Okay. That's another thing you can do. And by the way, did you know you can assume existing debt on residential property as well? That's right. What he's saying is, if you have a borrower who's in trouble and needs to get out, instead of trying to come in and just get a new loan and buy it at a discount, whatever, you just assume their debt. So their loan is whatever, $15 million on a property. I don't know, but it's at like 4%. You can just assume that $15 million mortgage, assuming that the bank allows it, all that stuff, right? At 4%, and just take it over, right? Easy peasy, as opposed to having to try to buy it maybe for a lower price, which is good, but maybe you're getting a loan on the new $12 million that you need to borrow at 8%. Not as good. So that's always an option. And by the way, on a lot smaller scale, you can do that with residential real estate. It's called subject to. So let me know if you have any questions on that. Love this stuff. I would be happy to help. Okay. All right. Next one here. $1 billion. Okay. Calling $1 billion bets. How 5 key East Valley municipalities are wrangling huge development, guys. The East Valley, which is way out by Mesa, Gilbert, Chandler, Queen Creek, they are a lot of developers are betting on the East Valley for commercial development and big time on residential development, right? So if you have some money, if you are looking to speculate on maybe investing, you might want to think about doing some of that in the East Valley, whether it's a single family house you're just going to buy, whether it's an Airbnb, or whether it's a commercial piece of land or property, your choice. But probably the East Valley is a good bet. That's the point. Okay. Mesa, Gilbert, Chandler, East, and Queen Creek. All right. This is kind of fun. Bentley Scottsdale Polo Championships. I mean, how often do you hop on YouTube and hear anything about polo? Not the cologne or the clothes, the game, the sport. You probably don't, but in Everything Phoenix, you're going to hear about it because it's important. There's polo people out there, right? They love playing the sport. Look at this. You get to hop on a horse and take a mallet and whack a ball. What could go wrong? What could go wrong with that? Nothing, right? I'm sure no one ever falls off the horse or gets hit in the mouth with someone's backswing of a mallet, but it might be fun to watch. Okay. The Bentley Scottsdale Polo Championships are back for the 12th year in 2023. Guys, if you want to see something kind of cool and different, go watch this polo match. It is awesome. It's different, right? It's just different. You don't see something like that very often. Okay. It's going to be this year's Scottsdale's Polo Sunset After Party with a fresh twist. Okay. That's the after party, of course. And where are they having this? It's usually at Westworld. Yep, here it goes. The after party will take place at the Wright House Day Club at the Westworld of Scottsdale, right here in beautiful Scottsdale, Arizona. You can see it all, including polo. Okay. This is pretty darn cool. All right, so I had to bring up polo. I mean, look at that. That is just what a sport. What a sport. Never played it, but what a sport. Okay, last but not least, it's NBA basketball time, guys. We have the World Series in our backyard in Phoenix. We have the Phoenix Suns, which now have a big three again, right? They have Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, and now they have Bradley Beal, and so they have big three, right? And they're going to be good. I don't know where they're going to go with this, but they're going to be good. And they had a new home opener, and they are rock and rolling, right? With NBA, we have baseball, we have the Cardinals in football, we have NHL with the Coyotes, we have Arizona State basketball athletics in football. Love Arizona football. Shout out to my man, head coach Kenny Dillingham for the Sun Devils football team. And then of course we have hockey with ASU as well. It's unbelievable in the desert, ice hockey. Yes, that's right, we do. Running altitude, I love it. Go D-backs, let's go. Okay, Abby, what's going on? I can barely hit a ball at rest off the golf tee. How do they do this on horse? I don't know. But have you seen Billy Madison? Takes a couple swings and then whacks the golf ball. I don't know. But the ball's moving though in polos. You're right. So it is probably a little more difficult. All right. So we got the Suns going on here, and they have a new look here going on. But we're excited about the Phoenix Suns. There's Devin Booker, who's their all-star player, obviously. And we'll see what happens with the Suns this year, right? But the big thing is the new owner, Matt Ishaba, who's who founded the United Wholesale Mortgage Lending, which is like the biggest one in the country. He clearly has a lot of money. He bought the Suns, and he is sinking a lot more money into the development of the Suns with players and new practice facilities coming down the road and all kinds of fun stuff. So there's the coach, Frank Vogel, good coach. And yeah, we're excited about the Suns, okay? Excited about the Suns, and we'll see what happens. But overall, we're just excited about Phoenix. Phoenix has a lot going on, guys. And if you're not down here, get down here. If you want some help on different parts of the valley, relocation, real estate, anything, give us a call. Hit us up, 480-660-5974. And guys, as always, time is up. But thank you so much for investing your precious time, because I know it is precious, in watching this and or watching the replay. Thank you very much, guys. And until next week, keep it classy, Phoenix. Take care.